With the risk of sounding like an old man, back in the day when you went in blind into a series and bought that very first volume, you felt excitement and you were curious about this new series you're going to dive into, because the chance of it being bad was quite low, considering that there weren't many series back then that was licensed in English, and if it was bad, why would you license it? Whereas today the landscape is vastly different and there's infinitely more series and the quality control is not the same as back then, so it kind of feels like a gamble nowadays. Hello brothers and sisters, my name is Daidarius, and today I'm gonna try to dive into why does it almost often feels like a gamble when you go in blind on a series. Now most of us can probably recognize this. When you start out your manga collection, you more often than not begin with the series that you know. It could be animes you have seen. For my generation, it was often Dragon Ball, and then it was Naruto, then it was One Piece, later it became Chainsaw Man, Dan, Kaiju number 8, Jujutsu Kaisen, you name it. You stay in the lane of those quote-unquote safe series. Now, that doesn't mean those series are bad, it's just the safe bet, because a lot of people have read them or watched them and therefore given an opinion on them, so the Metacritic is more often than not hammered in stone. You know exactly what you're getting into just by looking at that. But what if you have collected what you want of those safe series and you want to try new series? How are you gonna get in blind there with some confidence? You see, with today's landscape, there is a huge amount of different licensed series of all genres and demographics, but it also means that not all of them has been experienced by the majority of people. And I know you should not hang yourself up too tightly on Metacritics, but what Metacritic does is to give you a good indication of roughly the mean score or at least quality of a series. So if you just gotta go in blind, let's say you have found a series has sparked your curiosity. Maybe you saw the cover and thought it was awesome. Maybe you saw the edition, the build quality. Maybe you saw a video on TikTok or a collection video, haul video, what have you. Something sparked a curiosity in you, and now you want to experience this series. Well, you're just gonna go off maybe the recommendation of one, maybe a few people, and then hopefully it will be good, but you do not know. And that excitement is, at least in my experience, more often than not changed out with uncertainty and fear of what if I'm gonna waste my money here? What if I'm gonna have to commit to a very long and or expensive series? And if the series is not to my liking, that's gonna be bad. That's gonna be real bad, especially if I throw a lot of money at it. My issue is that back in the day when I had to go off the beaten path and try a series that I haven't really heard that much about, the chances of it being good was a lot higher than the chances of being bad, or at least not for my liking. Whereas today, it feels like you have to invest a lot of research to just be kind of certain that you may like this series. And then you have to consider, how blindly are you gonna dive into this series? Are you just gonna go full ham, haven't read anything except the title of the series, and you're just gonna start buying the series? And then what? Are you gonna read the first volume? Are you gonna wait until you have a handful of volume? Then maybe you're gonna sit on a gold mine, or maybe you're gonna sit on a big giant turd. And if you have bought a lot of volumes and only then read it and you figure out it is indeed a big stinking pile of turd, well, now you have a lot of volumes you need to, I guess, sell, because they're taking up precious room in your collection and you do not want to collect anymore. And I don't think you're gonna keep the volume, just to remind you that maybe you should do more research before jumping completely blind into a series. It might also be an awesome experience, and then you just get a gold mine, a gold nugget of a series. This just hits you right in the core and you just love it. But those moments are much more rare, unfortunately. I have experienced that maybe twice or thrice for all of my series where I went into it completely blind. Otherwise, I have to do a bit more. So let's just put that to the side for a bit. You are trying to experience a series blind, more or less blind. And now you're just contemplating how blindly are you gonna jump into it? Do you wanna research something or do you research none of it? One path you could take is read a tiny bit of it, maybe a volume, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 5. But if that is the case, well, as I stated before, do you just buy the volumes or do you go the alternative route and read it online? Because at that point, you're not really experiencing it blind anymore, depending on how long the series is. And if you don't like it then, and you have read it online, then no harm, no foul, you haven't lost anything. But what you have lost is that initial experience of reading a story blind, and especially if you read it online, you won't get it in physical format. And personally, nothing beats the first time I experienced a story, a manga story in this case, in physical format, sitting in my chair, physically holding the volume, being able to feel it, smell it, and just read it. That feeling of the paper, the act of turning the page, everything just elevates the experience of reading a manga for the very first time. And you won't get that if you read it online. So again, that is the conflict here. That is the dilemma. Do you actually go blind or do you not? And how blind are you actually gonna go? Because there is a different route. Maybe you're just gonna research as much as you can with as few spoilers as possible. You're just gonna read all the reviews online that is spoiler free. You're gonna see what other things this author have done. And if those series are good as well, maybe you're gonna check out a few panels. How is the page layout? Are you actually able to follow not just the action, but the story itself? Do you like the art? Do you like the pacing? Do you like what edition the formats come in? Is it a paperback? It is a deluxe edition? Is it a medium size? It is an omnibus? What is it? Is this gonna affect your reading experience? You are gonna do everything you can to get enough information to guess if you're gonna like it or not. And then in that case, if you have done a lot of research, well, now you are safe, of course, but you have also been robbed of that initial blind read through. So what is the answer? Well, to be frank, there's one more thing you need to consider, because this is who you are now. This is what your taste is now. Let's say you're gonna go in fully blind. You're gonna commit to a handful of volumes. Maybe people online have said that you should at least get the first 10 volumes because that tells a complete story or what have you. And it takes you a year, maybe 2 to collect it, depending on the release schedule of the volumes and of course also how much has already been released and you are trying to catch up. Put that aside. Never the fact, it's gonna take you some time to acquire the volumes needed for reading that first initial go. Is your taste then gonna align at that time with that manga? Because you made the commitment where your taste was different more often than not, because the older we get, then our tastes change. Either because we get a different outlook on life, get different experiences, or we have curated our manga taste by reading many more different types of stories. So now we're looking, when we look into a manga story, at what we appreciate out of it and what we actually want out of it, that has changed. When I was younger, all I wanted was some cool looking drawings and some neat action, whereas now, more often than not, I want some more subtlety. I still enjoy the action a lot, but there are other things that brings much more value to me and enriches my experience a lot more than others. And if you're just gonna sit and wait for an unspecific amount of time until you have enough to start reading it, yes, you're going in blind, but now you're also risking that your taste has changed too much. And the issue is that if you, let's say you started reading the story when you first bought that first volume and just hypothetically you actually enjoyed it, even if your taste changed enough that years later you wouldn't actually have enjoyed reading the series if you just went in blind. Now the nostalgia goggles are actually gonna come in and save it, and you are still gonna like that story even if you won't really like those type of stories anymore if you are reading them for the first time. Which brings the question, what do? Do you just flip a coin and go, either I'm gonna research the shit out of it, maybe even gonna read a few volumes or chapters or what have you, either online, or I'm actually gonna buy it, or I am just gonna turn a blind eye to any information I have online and just gonna roll with it. I'm gonna bring you the most boring answer ever. It depends. It depends how in touch are you with your own manga taste. Because me personally, I am, it's gonna sound weird, I am very much in sync, in line with my own manga taste. I have been collecting mangas for decades. I have been reading manga for decades. I have been reading many different kinds of stories and genres, and for each demographic. I have a pretty good understanding of what I like, and therefore I more often than not need limited amount of information to actually decide if I'm gonna buy a volume or series or not, because I know with a certain amount of guaranteed certainty if I'm gonna like it or not. I have maybe one series in my collection that I'm kinda iffy on, which I went in blind, but every other series I at least enjoy. The only thing I do not know when going in blind, besides just have looked at the art, looked at the author, and maybe heard a few things about what the story is about by people I actually trust, the only thing I don't know is if I'm gonna love it. But that to me is the neat surprise. That is what I want in my collection, because I'm at a point where I don't want to just go in blindly and just hope that the series is good. I have too many series. I have to be pretty aware of exactly what type of series I put into my collection, because I have limited room, and also I don't want to just collect this manga series just cause. So that is how I am doing it. I have gotten to know exactly what I like, and I can often recognize that rather quickly with very limited amount of information. But what about you? Have you gotten tuned to your own manga taste, or should you start becoming a bit more aware of exactly what you like, and also what are the hints, what are the aspects of a manga that you can quickly recognize that assures you that yes, you will like this story. You may not love it, but also it may become your favorite. But if you can just fine tune and just hone in on those aspects, it's gonna be at least feel a lot more safe going in blind going forward. But it also brings up the question, because there are two ways about this. Because do you want a well-planned, calculated and fully curated collection where nothing is amiss, everything is planned down to the very single volume? Or are you gonna actually allow for some exploration and experimentation that allows you to discover that very hidden gem that's gonna hit you, right? Not just in the feels, but in your inner kids. You know, that's feeling of, this is why I started reading manga. So fully planned with no misses, but also the experience gonna take thereafter, or we allow to sometimes miss, but at least we have a chance to find gold. But remember, it doesn't matter if you pick wrong, whatever side you have. Let's say you take a leap of faith, go off the beaten path, pick a direction, go that direction, and then turns out this is not for you. You can always just turn around and go back to the beginning. Yes, sure, you might have to sell some volumes. That's gonna be tedious, but at least now you have a chance again to make a decision. But that makes me curious, what do you think, and how do you tackle going in blind on a new series? A lot of research, or let's just do that leap of faith. Whatever you think, comment on me your thoughts, and so I'll still see you next video. Just remember to stay awesome. See ya.